Why is there no ketchup? How can you have pizza without ketchup?
So I think, like, for me, the most important as a professional is the respect and love I give to the art of New York pizza making. So I feel like ketchup is a little bit disrespectful to that. The O's is for Omar because I'm Omar, and when you go to New York, like, you see a lot of these shops are funnily named Famous Joe's or Famous John's or Famous Original Ray's or something like that. So famous O's, like, we're just starting out, obviously we can't be famous, but the famous O's was kind of like an ode to the New York pizza shop. So it was just like the tongue-in-cheek, overconfident, famous O's kind of thing, So it was just a tribute to the New York culture, pizza culture. I think running a business here has its own challenges. For example, we have a lot of labor attrition, but that's common among the restaurant industry. The other thing is there's a lot of people from the authorities that will come and sort of harass you for no reason.
Hello and welcome everyone to All Things Money. I'm Fatima Attarwala, and with me today is Omar Qadir, the owner of Famous O's, the only genuine New York pizza in Pakistan, and a complete pizza nerd. Absolute pizza purist. So Omar, what got you in this journey to start selling pizzas, and that to a very specific style of pizza, as you've been explaining to me, in Pakistan?
Right, so in 2012, I had the opportunity to travel to New York for about half a year. And that was my first trip. I found pizza through taking pizza tours and visiting different pizzerias. I visited dozens and dozens of independent mom and pop pizzeria shops and developed quite a keen interest in pizza. I think that was particularly because I didn't have career direction at that point in my life. I was much younger. And I found that pizza to be very interesting and I wanted to recreate it. So I spent 6 months learning pizza. And then I think when I came home from New York, my goal was I was missing the pizza in New York. So in Karachi, I bought a pizza stone from America and I bought a peel to make pizza with. So I would make pizzas at home. And my family really enjoyed them and my friends really enjoyed them. And slowly I started making it for them. And then it got to a point where I built an oven in my backyard and we would make pizzas on order and then slowly started taking the shape of a business.
So how many franchises or how many locations are you in right now?
So currently we have 2 locations. We have one in Phase 6 on Khiyaban-e-Seher in Defense, Karachi, and the other one is in Karachi on KDA Scheme 1, right behind Lal Killa.
I had your pizza yesterday. It was great.
Right.
It was very different from the pizza that I'm used to. Like, I usually have like thick crust, pan pizza, Pizza Hut kind of pizza.
Yeah.
So how do you differentiate it and what's your selling point? What's your USP?
So I think our USP is that we're the only genuine New York style pizza in the country. And people who've had pizza in New York before, some of the top pizzerias will agree and they'll be hardcore fans. And so I think a lot of those people who are pizza nerds themselves or are looking for genuine New York style pizza, there's nowhere else they can find it. And that's something I'm very proud of in the sense that I'm very true to the art of pizza making, and what I do is a tribute to New York pizza. What happens is people who are looking for a genuine pizza experience will always come in. It's not necessarily the people who are looking for the budget deal or the price cut or whatever, but they're looking for, let's say, a genuine pepperoni pizza or a genuine sausage and pepperoni pizza or something like that. They'll always come into Famous O's.
So you keep saying New York style pizza.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Is it a different dough, a different way of baking it? What does that
Right.
mean translated to people?
So New York style pizza has a few characteristics. Typically it's crispy, it's crunchy, it's chewy, it's has some structure to it. You can fold the slice, it's thin, and typically it's served on paper plates. It's usually larger than the paper plate itself, but it's got some char to it, and it's got a low moisture whole milk mozzarella cheese. So you see that yellow orange skin of cheese form on the top of the pizza. It's got a slightly sweet herby tomato sauce, and usually a hard cheese like Parmesan or Pecorino as a flavor supplement added to the pizza. So it's a simple cheese pizza and you can add basic toppings to it, but really the pizza itself is the core focus of, highlight itself, I suppose, rather than the toppings.
And what are your best-selling products?
Our best-selling by far is the pepperoni. I'd say about 40% of our sales comes from pepperoni and its variants, like the pepperoni variant pizzas. simply because the pepperoni we use is so good. It's made by this family in the States that has been making sausage and pepperoni for 100 years. And they're family owned. And they make a ISO certified halal and Zabia halal pepperoni just for the halal market. We import that. We used to import that from the States, but we found a distributor in Dubai. So currently we're short because the distributor in Dubai doesn't have any. But that is the problem with sourcing things, some stuff like you're importing, like the pepperoni and stuff. It becomes difficult sourcing them eventually, especially with the import restrictions and such.
So you survived the pandemic. That must have been challenging. And then the whole LC issues, imports, cheese is imported. So can you talk about the challenges that you faced running a business here?
Yep, absolutely. I think running a business here has its own challenges. For example, we have a lot of labor attrition, but that's common among the restaurant industry. The other thing is there's a lot of people from the authorities that will come and sort of harass you for no reason. That's some of the part of the challenges here. Then there's sourcing of ingredients. I think if you're looking for specialty ingredients, like when we started out, we're looking for specialty flour and specialty tomatoes and specialty cheese, and we use a hard Pecorino Romano on our pizza. So that's a hard grated Italian cheese. Those things are hard to find here. So you have to import them, and import is hard. So it just becomes very difficult opening LCs and even getting LCLs and containers and all that stuff. And it's very expensive and prohibitive also. So when you end up selling them, your price point becomes way higher than what the average customer can afford. So you can only cater to a niche market. But I think what my business model was quality over quantity. So it was just, I wanted the product to speak for itself and not to overload people's plates with food. I think if I was a customer, I would appreciate that more, not just the raw quantity of things. So it's always quality focused and that sort of thing.
What is your target market and how do you reach them?
So our target market is anybody who is into pizza or food, or so everybody's our target market, right? But really our age-wise, I'd say it's the younger crowd. It's expats, it's people who travel for business to the West or overseas or Canada or the US. It's a lot of people who are generally food lovers, people who are Instagram bloggers, people who are influencers, stuff like that. And I would say anybody who is specifically into pizza, you'll see they end up knowing about Famous O's because it's sort of the only genuine New York pizza in the country. So I feel like that really is the pizza lover is our target market.
Famous O's.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any meaning to that to you?
Yeah, well, the O's is for Omar because I'm Omar. And when you go to New York, you see a lot of these shops are funnily named Famous Joe's or Famous John's or Famous Original Ray's or something like that. So Famous O's, we're just starting out. Obviously, we can't be famous, but the Famous O's was kind of an ode to the New York pizza shop. So it was just the tongue-in-cheek, overconfident, Famous O's kind of thing, So it was just a tribute to the New York culture, pizza culture.
So like I said, I was there yesterday. I was so glad that when I paid with card, there was an 8% tax.
Right.
There are a lot of eateries in Karachi that are still charging 15%. And we asked them, they're like, we have an application for it. We have a letter of approval for it, yada, yada, yada. What's that? Can you explain the whole 8%? What's this?
Well, I think it essentially, we also have permits for it, but we don't do it. So it's a choice that you would make. And I think the majority of restaurants, 50-50 sort of situation right now, I think, will either choose to charge you 8%, which is the right thing to do, on card, and then 15 on cash, which is regulation. But if you have a letter from, let's say, the FBR or the SRB, you can do that legally. But I feel like, what they're doing is really when you claim, let's say you order cheese, right, from your cheese vendor, but you're gonna have to charge withholding tax from them, or you're gonna have to charge them a little above that. So what they do is they don't give you the full amount of withholding tax, so you're making up for some of that difference by charging the customer extra. I know some restaurateurs are doing that. I wouldn't know if that's the exact reason why everybody's doing it, but we chose not to do it because it was just, tricky territory, and I just didn't feel it was the right thing to do.
I think it's also good for customers. Customers take note of which restaurants are charging 8%, which
Right.
restaurants are charging 15%.
Of
If
course.
I can go to a restaurant that's charging 8% tax, why would I go to a restaurant that's charging 15%
Yeah.
tax?
Yeah.
Right. So, what is your business model? Like, how much of it is takeaway, delivery versus dine-in?
Right. So takeaway is about, I would say, 25-ish, 20 to 25%. Delivery is the other 30 to 40%, and the remaining is all dine-in. So we have most of our sale comes from dine-in. Then I'd say delivery is the second biggest avenue, and takeaway is the smallest. And we have website orders for our own website. We're on Food Panda, and we do some partnerships with other people. Like there's this, cricket apps and so on and so forth. And but essentially, our model is mostly dine-in, and that's why, because I feel the pizza is at its most optimal when you have it in dine-in.
Yeah, I mean, it's really fresh.
Yeah, and it's crispy and chewy.
The first bite that you take is the cheese, and that's
right, and you
it's
get the
really fun,
cheese
isn't it?
pull and all that. So it's a really nice experience. That's why I focused on dine-in. You look at most pizzerias, they're delivery based, right? Because it's not good pizza to start off with, to be honest, and it's only going to be that way in delivery. So I think if you have a good product, it should really shine through in dine-in. I think people who've had famous O's in dine-in will always tell you that dine-in, it's a completely different experience. And I've had a lot of people tell me that, and I've heard that a lot too. But I feel that was the reason I wanted to highlight the dine-in bit. And if you look at, like I said, most pizzerias, they don't have a dine-in section. This is more recent when they've started to open dine-in, And delivery is big because pizza is like the perfect sharing food. It's cut into slices, and if you're, with your friends or whatever over game night, you can just pick up 1 or 2 slices with your hand, and you don't need forks and knives, and it's the perfect sharing food. So I think delivery is big for us, especially when there's sports events and fixtures like that.
But I have a bone to pick with you.
Right.
There's no ketchup. Why is there no ketchup? How can you have pizza without ketchup?
So I think, for me, the most important as a professional is the respect and love I give to the art of New York pizza making. So I feel like ketchup is a little bit disrespectful to that.
So if I were to go to New York and have pizza and then I ask them for ketchup, they would be like, what?
I've seen people get kicked out of shops
my
for
God.
that. I have. For asking for ranch, for mayo, for ketchup, they tell you to leave the shop.
Really?
Yeah. I've seen that with my own eyes.
Wow.
So even I know Prince Street Pizza, if you go there, they have a big sign which says no ranch, no ketchup, no pizza, no mustard, no mayo.
Wow.
So
I'm sure that's like a bit of a cultural shock.
It is a
culture.
culture. Right.
There's this whole drama in an episode scene that became big because the husband was sad the wife left without ketchup.
Right.
And she was having pizza. That's just like a big thing over there.
Yeah, I just feel like we give them tomato sauce, our own tomato sauce, but I specifically make an effort not to give ketchup or mayo at but we do give ranch. So they're selective.
So you're getting a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Some concessions.
Some concessions.
So what are your future plans? What do you plan to do? Open up more outlets in Karachi?
So really, I've been doing some research on possible expansion opportunities, and there's been a lot of work I've been doing on that lately. And it's been between a lot of different cities and some. And now I've sort of felt that the way the economy is over here, I think like in Pakistan, I'm not going to get the most return for my investment. So I have friends from university who were from the States. They're very keen on investing in the business, and they want to open a location in Texas. So I'm looking to hopefully end up going and opening there maybe in a year and a half or so. But it requires a lot of homework to do.
Wow, I've heard of businesses trying to attract dollars into Pakistan. This is the first time I've heard of an entrepreneur trying to take pizza, which is not something domestic, to the US. I mean, how do you think you'll be able to successfully compete over there?
I think if you make good pizza and you genuinely make good pizza by just general standards around the world, it'll do well, And I have a lot of, whether it's music or pizza, whatever it is, you do it well. I think there's a market for it everywhere, especially with something that's so universally accepted like pizza. I think people will really like it because, I've been to places in New York and I've been to places in, let's say, where I'm opening, hopefully in Texas. And I really think we can do better than most of the pizzerias there. So I'm confident about that, especially if you give me those ingredients at those prices. I think it gives me a lot of room to play around with, the culinary palette of things, and I think that will make me grow as a creative professional as well on the food side, and to add to my experience and knowledge. And then also I get to create new items on the menu, which are like taste really good because the ingredients are specifically meant for this type of a dish. For example, let's say you need high protein flour, right? Which is something we have a lot of trouble finding in Pakistan because you need the crispiness and the chewiness and the bite to it. So if you make it with pastry flour, it's never going to be the same. So things like that, if you give me high gluten flour, if you give me high protein flour, I can do much better with it. If you give me a full fat cheese, I can do much better with it. Things like that.
So actually saying that the cost of ingredients would be lower over there.
Much lower, but then labor is higher. But I would also say that there's outlying things in Pakistan that really throw us off balance. So, for example, our utilities are about 4 times our rent.
Oh my God! Your
Yeah.
utilities, the electricity and everything
Yeah.
is 4 times in rent,
Yes.
and that too for a location like Defense.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's a huge numbers, and that takes a big chunk out of our profitability. I don't think, like, based on my studies, like the US doesn't have those ratios. Yes, there's high labor and all that, but a lot of that can be curtailed to a great extent by labor scheduling. I think you could curtail some of that, but at the same time, I think they're generally more open to entrepreneurial business coming in and doing that. For example, there's no state tax there. So things like that.
So what's your ultimate dream?
The ultimate dream, which it's always been, is to expand enough and to grow enough so that I can eventually become one of the stars, which is become a New York pizzeria itself. So my dream is to own maybe 2 to 3 locations of my own pizzeria in New York City itself. So, like, imagine it'd be a great story. It comes full circle. You start getting inspired by the New York pizza and become one of them eventually. So I think that would be a great story, and that's always been my goal.
Story, like, having one of us go there and compete successfully with the New York pizza.
Right.
That would definitely be.
That's my dream. Yeah.
Yeah. So best of luck to you. I think that having a famous oak pizza would be an experience in itself, a New York experience.
Yeah.
And that if anybody is from the US and if you do miss home and you want a New York style pizza, you can always have Omar Qadir's Purist Famous Oak Pizzas. And I guess that's it for today. Catch you next time on All Things Funny.